Hey guys, this is Justin. Hello and welcome to, for the first time in a couple of years, another Mandalorian review video. Today we'll be talking about Chapter 17, The Apostate, which of course serves as the premiere for the third season. Now, so much has happened since Mandalorian Season 2, so much news, so many talking points, how long the show is going to be, all of that discussion for another day. Today we'll be focusing specifically on the episode. And this was a very different start to a season compared with Seasons 1 and 2, both of which had one major gotcha moment for the audience, one thing that everyone would talk about for really the rest of the season. In Season 1, of course, that was Grogu, an ingeniously designed creature which would win the hearts of everyone. In Season 2, it was the appearance of Cobb Vanth, and especially Boba Fett at the very end. This season premiere didn't have any of those things, and some will probably categorize it as lesser for that reason. I'm not sure I agree, although overall, I don't think it was quite as strong a start as Season 2's. That being said, there was one moment early on which I absolutely loved, and I think a lot of you who are hardcore Star Wars Rebels fans like I am probably shared that moment. My jaw dropped when I saw Grogu see the Purrgil, not only because they're creatures that I like and are interesting, but because what that scene represents overall. The Mandalorian is a part of what some have called the Greater Mandoverse, a collection of stories presumably leading up to some grand fight against Thrawn. The last time we saw Purrgil, they were taking Thrawn and Ezra away, and it's almost time to get them back. I think that little musical cue that we heard during the section might be one that we hear again, perhaps as we get our first glimpse at Ezra. It was obviously very mystical. That could be simply because it was a scene featuring Grogu, but I really liked it. The beginning of the episode is definitely a bit strange. I was like, wow, is the armorer way older than I realized? I thought this was a flashback showing the, I guess, christening of Din Djarin. I was like, that character kind of looks like a more pale version of the kid we saw during the Clone Wars. But no, it turns out that this is a monster segment that the Mandalorian would come in and end. And if there was one complaint I had about this episode, it was maybe a bit too silly and lighthearted at times. Like, this monster segment, it didn't really add very much to the show, I thought. And it's also a bit weird how they focus so much on IG-11 when it seems clear that for now at least, he's not really going to be involved in the story. I wouldn't be surprised if IG-11's body sort of makes its way into the story later on, but it was a lot taking up the first episode. That being said, that's a fairly minor complaint, and in my opinion, we're continuing to see real jumps in terms of special effects, which is pretty impressive considering how Season 2 started with the Crate Dragon. The environments are becoming more impressive, and it's just great to see overall. I also thought it was really cool how the environments were mixed with practical effects costumes. I'm someone that really likes cheesy Star Wars aliens. The Mon Calamari from Return of the Jedi, they're the cheapest and silliest looking creatures ever, but they're so cool and they add so much fun to the universe. I really like Navarro. I liked it all the way back in Season 1. It's pretty interesting now how it's taken on a completely different tone, and I was thinking while watching this segment, having just recently visited Disney World, how much Disney probably wishes they had made Galaxy's Edge after this show came out, because Navarro would have been the perfect planet for Galaxy's Edge rather than Batuu, and it even looks pretty damn similar. They could have thrown the IG-11 statue up, had some shops as they appear in the show, had a little Mandalorian's enclave, but that's a discussion for another time. One sort of feeling I got from watching this episode is that this season is going to be significantly different when compared to the past two. It's at least going to be different than Season 2. I think, and this is just the vibe I get from this episode, that the season will more clearly stand as an in-between point between what has come first and what has come after. Now, maybe I'm wrong, and we'll see the Mandalorian change fundamentally, becoming Mandalore or something like that, but I also wouldn't be surprised if we had more of an adventure tone like we did with Season 1, whereas the last 3 or 4 episodes of Season 2 were very direct, moving towards this big mystery and this big quest point. So when it comes to the Mandalorian washing himself in the waters of Mandalore, I think that's something that's going to happen fairly quickly, and they're going to move on from that, which is good because personally, I'm not a real fan of that plot line, and I hope the Mandalorian has to come to terms with the fact that he's been in this weird cult for so long. It also seems clear that he's going to have run-in with these pirates again. Now, I'm sort of two minds about them. As mentioned, I love the prosthetic costumes, and I also love that Grief has these little droids carrying his cape around when he's meeting with them. But at some point they were, especially the leader, almost a little too cartoony. Like, the last sequence felt like the Mandalorian was fighting Star Fox villains. Is that a huge deal? Not really, no. But I'm not sure, at least yet, that they're compelling enough to stick around for the rest of the season. And the reason I say we'll see them again is because a prior trailer showed their vessel closer to what looks like a planet's surface, although maybe that was changed footage or something, who knows. I did really like the action this episode. The gunfight on Navarro was really fun, and the space battle especially was exhilarating. You don't usually get that sort of sense of speed, even in an asteroid field. I thought they did a great job of showing how competent of a pilot Mando is, but also how space combat is a seconds thing. It's life or death in an instant. The other sort of plot point is one that I didn't really like. That's the finding the droid companion bit. I understand why the Mandalorian wants to do that. He needs a droid to help him explore what is supposed to be a toxic planet, but the IG-11 bit was weird. For one, if he was actually revivable, why wouldn't they have done so in the first place? Like, did they really just not care at all when there's a droid workshop down the street? I was relieved when that didn't work, and it seems pretty obvious based on the trailers we've gotten that Mando will be working with R5 at least for a while. Just a kind of a weird way to spend so much time of an episode on one specific part. But the droid workshop itself was really charming. The Anzellans were fun. Baby Yoda, Grogu, definitely reminded me of my daughter when he was grabbing on the Anzellan, because my daughter is like super huggy. She'll just grab other kids and you're like, don't do that. So I thought they got that aspect of being a parent completely right. One thing I want to mention too about the pirates before I move on to the last bit, I really liked their capital ship. Super cool design. I like the drop ball turrets. I like the miniature Imperial style bridge. I do wonder whether that could be like a modified Imperial ship. And I like how it looks like the starfighters take off from a shielded portion in the middle. Really cool ship design overall. The Mandalorian's visit to Bo-Katan felt a bit sudden until I realized, yeah, she's not leading anybody right now. I thought that was an interesting choice. I thought that she would have an open hatred towards the Mandalorian. That's almost how some of the trailers made it seem, but she seems just tired. She didn't challenge Mando. She kind of just let him do his own thing. She's just over it, which I thought was an interesting choice. I do think that she'll probably end up being an ally throughout this season. My opinion definitely changed after this episode, but she also seems angry enough, or at least frustrated enough, that that could go either way. Overall, a pretty good episode. Not as good as the season 2 premiere, which I thought was pretty much a masterpiece, but we've seen some pretty serious jumps in terms of special effects, set design, practical effects, so overall, good episode. That's just my thoughts. Let me know what yours are down below. I'm going to try to do a video covering the Bad Batches episode, which is also very, very good, but we'll see. Until next time, have a good one, be safe, and may the Force be with you.